Hi, I have another essay about jobs for you, a follow-up essay to my initial one about not wanting a job, and this one is going to be called Letting Go of the Shame for Not Wanting a Job. So since sharing my initial article, I don't want a job, I've been incredibly emotional and activated by the unprecedented response. I've been sharing my work online for a decade. I've had work go viral, like viral, but I've never had so many messages, so many people being moved by a piece of my work. And if I could have chosen something I had written to have this sort of impact, it would have been that essay. Like, it's so fucking beautiful. I'm so grateful for your comments and for your connection. It turns out that it wasn't just me. A lot of people, a lot of artists in particular, we don't want to spend our days, our lives, going to a job that doesn't give us meaning and doing work that robs us of our energy. We don't want to spend hours trawling through Indeed, wondering which bullshit job will cause the least amount of pain to our psyche. We don't want to spend 90,000 hours of our lives doing work that steals us away from our art, creativity, play, connection, purpose. We don't want to be in a situation where, even when we are not working, and this is a quote from Bob Black, the author of the foundational essay of the anti-work movement, like, we don't want to be spending our free time getting ready for work, going to work, returning from work, and recovering from work. We want more. To know I'm not alone in that is life-changing. I'm so grateful for this conversation. Artists have an appetite for life that labor cannot satiate. Most of the thousands of comments on the essay, so I had the essay on YouTube, I also posted it on my Instagram, and then it was initially on my Substack. And most of the comments on all of those platforms were from artists. And they were creatives that were saying, I want more. I want a life I love. I want art. I want energy to create. And it was so, so beautiful. And it was so, so fucking heartbreaking. Artists, we are the questioners, the rebels, the revolutionaries. We are the ones who dare say, why do I have to do it this way? Why are we accepting these conditions? Why can't I have more? Why are you all good with being in the 9-to-5 grey office box? Wouldn't you rather be playing with watercolors? And perhaps we only write these thoughts, these questions in our journal, or think about them late at night when the world is finally silent. But we have been thinking these thoughts. The artist demands a life that sparkles. And it is why I love us. It is why the world tries to keep us quiet and compliant. I believe artists and creators have an incredibly important job in deconstructing their own narratives about work and jobs. And then I think we have to play a part in allowing others to do the same. All right, so what can we do about it? We want to not have a job, but what can we do about it? We live in a world that asks us to have a job. So I intend to write a lot about this topic. I want to write more about why artists will be at the forefront of the work revolution, and they fucking will be. We will be. We already are. I want to talk about the systemic solutions and like personal solutions. Like, what can you do about it right now? I want to talk about AI, because motherfucker, some shit's coming for us. Not artists, like all of us, like work. AI is coming for work. I want to talk to the artist who wants to make a living with their creations. I want to explain to you why I very firmly believe that selling your art is anti-capitalist. And I know that one's going to be super spicy. I want to look at this topic from every angle and work towards a world where we actually get to live our life, make our art, and not be constantly trying to recover from employment-induced exhaustion. But before we have these quite technical conversations, we need to talk about shame. I want to talk about why none of us have said this shit out loud before. why it took me 10 years to write this, like to write about this topic properly. And I share everything on the internet. It's literally insufferable, but it took me 10 years to voice this. I want to explain why this topic is so unbelievably taboo. And I want to talk about how many of us hate ourselves because we don't want to do what we are told we must do. And we have to start our conversation here, because if we can't talk about the shame around this topic, then we can't have conversations about how we create lives that sparkle. Shame keeps us quiet and silent. So today we're gonna dive into why is there so much shame, and I'm gonna hope to take a lot of that shame off of your shoulders. Why is it taboo to say you don't want a job? And let me tell you, it fucking is. Some of the comments were really, really mean. We live in a world where all you have to do is show up to your job and society says you have served your purpose. Many sins are excusable if you also have a good work ethic. And ethic is really the operative word there. Ethical, it's moral. If one works, one is moral. The harder one works, the more moral one is. This is the story of our culture. This hardworking American, the veneration of employment, a human kept occupied by labor is a good person. To say you don't want a job is like plain and simple a defect in your character. Something is wrong with you. And we internalize this bullshit. We internalize these narratives, even when we are almost fucking certain that this doesn't add up. Like, this doesn't make sense. It can't be right. We still internalize it. I internalized it. I hated myself. I thought I was so disgusting for not wanting to work like everybody else worked. In order for you, for the world, to get to spend their days doing shit that matters, getting to do work that lights them up, getting to spend, their precious days on earth, like enjoying themselves, we must release that shame that we have internalized. Okay, and so today I'm going to write words and speak words to you that allow you to realize that you're a fucking good person. Powerful, important, needed, like incredible, even though you don't want a job. Let's look at why work has been fetishized. There are many, many reasons why we worship work. We could look at Calvinism or the Protestant work ethic, or we just go back to the foundational myth of all Judeo-Christian religion, Adam and Eve, who were punished with labor for original sin, hard labor. And so we must atone for our faults by working. We can and we should look at industrialist capitalism, where your value is determined by what you produce, which serves economic systems that need compliant and productive workers. We can explore how work is inherently virtuous. Like, if work is inherently virtuous, then the wealthy are deserving because they supposedly worked harder, and the poor are lazy and immoral. Like, it just serves, the narrative serves to keep us in a hierarchy. We might dip into the discussion of control. Work structures teach us hierarchies, and they teach us authority systems which maintain order in our capitalist system. If work is moral, the hierarchy is moral, and we shouldn't challenge the authorities. And then if we really wanted to go out like on a limb, be really spicy, we could say that people who don't work, they might make art. And art is rebellious and challenging to the social norms. There are so many reasons why our culture worships work. For now, though, I just need you to know that having a job is not a moral requirement. Having a job doesn't make you a good person. There are many, many reasons why work has been deified in our culture, and a huge amount of those reasons as you keep you fucking quiet and compliant. Let me take away some of your shame. Listen, you are not lazy. As I can now confirm, if you say you don't want a real job out loud, people will call you lazy. I was very used to that though, because I said that shit to myself every day, 1,000,000 times a day for a decade. I agree with Dr. Devon Price. Laziness does not exist. And you should read that book if you haven't read that book. Laziness does not exist. It seems instead to be some sort of insult we hurl at those who dare to enjoy their lives. But I shall use the word lazy in this section for clarity. Listen to me. Not wanting a life of drudgery doesn't make you lazy. Not wanting to be a cog in a machine does not make you lazy. Not having the motivation to do work that seems pointless is not lazy. You have a thirst for life. You want to do things that light you up. You want to rest and play and connect. You are not lazy. You are asking for a life that you love. And you deserve that. You are not lazy. You have an intolerance for a life of drudgery, which is fucking profound. You are not lazy. You just don't want to do work that sucks. You are not a privileged little shit. So this is a sentence that got thrown at me quite a lot after that essay. And I'm really glad it did because it got me to do some big thinking. I am very privileged. I'm middle class, I am white, and I'm educated. It is not an abuse of my privilege to demand a life with meaning and purpose. I demand it for everyone. A lot of the guilt we have for wanting more is this horror that if I want more, why don't they get more? Am I allowed to ask for a life that sparkles when other people's lives don't sparkle? In the aftermath of that original essay, I was repeatedly accused of outsourcing drudgery. A lovely man who I am sure fucking loves his life said this, and just a warning, he's a bit of a dick. Funny, isn't it? The platform you use, the hardware, the internet, it's all maintained by thousands of people, tens of thousands actually. The dollars you make online, providing your little entertainment value, come from people doing shit jobs and people who suffer. Enjoy the oil of the machine, the suffering, the sweat of others. Also, you can feel magical. Get a grip. It is obviously a really unpleasant read because he's a fucking tool. But I wanted to put it here so that I could refute his argument and so I can refute the voice in your head that may have similar ideas. And I had similar ideas in my head too. Like my inner critic sounded not quite unlike Dickhead number 1. That was his handle. Listen to me. You will not, and I will not, labour in meaningless ways, hate our lives just because other people have jobs. You will not, I will not take shit because other people have to take shit. Do not martyr yourself. This comment is a classic whataboutism. What about this? What about that? Like, don't look at the actual issue I'm talking about because there's another issue over here. Don't ask for more because we aren't ready for it yet as a society. Like, don't dream of more because I can't see a route to get there. We need to write one more line of code, build one more server farm, clean one more toilet. Then we can ask for more. Until then, shut up. It goes nowhere. The world goes nowhere if we think like this. We are heading into a job revolution with AI, like We are heading into a job revolution. We already have a gluttony of bullshit jobs that are totally unnecessary and dehumanizing. The stats are like, I think it's up to 50% of people think maybe their job does absolutely nothing to impact the world. We do not need to be working this much or this hard, because our culture, like, we work this hard because our culture is obsessed with work, not because it is needed. I do not want to outsource my drudgery. I want to liberate us of drudgery. Most of the drudgery going around, it isn't even needed. Now, of course, like, I need to acknowledge that I have privileges that have allowed me to step out of this work-obsessed system much more easily than other people are going to be able to. My reality isn't a universal reality, but my intention is that by calling out the structures that keep us tethered to meaningless and exhausting labor that doesn't light us up, we can move towards a world where everyone, regardless of their race or class, gender, whatever their circumstances, has the freedom and support to prioritize art and play, purpose and rest. I want everyone to live a life that they love. And when I demand a life I love for myself, I'm working towards building a world where everyone can do that. This isn't just about asking for a better world for me or for a few. It's about fighting for systemic and cultural changes that make these freedoms accessible to everybody. This is a huge fucking conversation, and I don't think people realize that. I demand a life that I love. I demand a meaningful way to spend my time. And in doing so, I fight for others to have the same thing. You are not being a privileged little shit by saying that you don't want a job. You are demanding a better world for everyone and saying that it is possible. What we're discussing is a dangerous idea. Expect clapback. You are threatening the foundation people have built their entire identities on. You are not being childlike. So one of my biggest internal stories was that I was a failed adult because I didn't want a job. I was like, something's wrong with me. Like, I didn't grow up right. I couldn't just cop it like everybody else. You know, what's wrong with me? I was a failed adult. Listen, you have never been so grown up. You are an adult who refuses to accept bullshit. You are so fucking adult that you can see beyond what has been offered to us. And you are asking for more. This conversation that you are having with me is the most adult conversation in the world. You are revolutionary. We are revolutionary. Rebellious, needed, and precious. Okay? You are not delusional. Our world is changing fucking fast. As I said, like, I don't see how a work revolution isn't coming. It has to. We have to change the way we work. It's already here, I think, in so many ways. It isn't simply theoretical to be thinking about this. It isn't like a nice philosophical like conversation to just dream about. Like, this is fucking important. It's imperative. Shit is changing right now. And how will we build our future? How will you build your future? Imagining a world that works differently is not delusional. For most of like human history, like pre-industrialization, we didn't center work in our lives. Medieval peasants worked around 150 days of the year, and then they spent, the rest of the year feasting, celebrating holidays. The Romans were really similar. Hunter-gatherers, they were thought to work even less. We are currently in a culture of work worship, but it is not how things must be in the future, and it fucking isn't how things have always been. So for those of us who are striving for a life of art, where you get to make shit and be paid for it, for those of us striving for a life with less work, whatever it is you want, this is not delusional. It can work. It can be beautiful. It can be magic. There are so many legitimate ways to make artistry work as a job. Artists are treated like we are trying to go to space when we say we want to make money from our art, but like more than ever, it's just a fucking valid, beautiful way to carve out a life that works for you. And if you don't want to be an artist, there are other ways to carve out, something very specific to you, like a life that works for you. and taking action and thinking about how we could make this shit better. It isn't delusional. It's as fucking as real as it gets. We get to, and we need to start thinking outside the box. There are ways to live outside the systems that prevail. It's incredibly exciting. You are not broken. You are living in a broken world, and you have the heart of an artist. It means you see things for what they could be. And this whole "you've got to have a job" thing could be a whole lot fucking better. Thank you for noticing that. Thank you for being brave enough to admit that to yourself. Thank you for demanding more for yourself. The more of us who are out there asking for lives that sparkle, the more people will realize they can demand lives that sparkle, you know? Even if it just begins with like a little bit of glitter. It doesn't have to sparkle all at once, like a little bit of glitter here and there. You are not broken for not wanting a job. You are not broken. You are living in a broken world, and you are so loved. We're going to have more of these conversations soon about how we can take this fucking shit show and, I speak to artists, so I'm going to be talking about how we can turn it into art and movement and reclaim our power. But for now, I just want you to know that you don't need to feel shame or guilt about really struggling with this topic. You should feel incredible about yourself. You should feel like a rebel instead. You're a revolutionary, an artist, a torchbearer. Whatever you've got your eyes set on, like whatever it is that you're craving, whether that's quitting, starting a knitting club, going pro, or if you just simply know what you absolutely do not want to be doing, I back that. I believe in you. I believe in your sparkly fucking life. That's the end of my written essay, but I would love to just add a little thing here that I've been mulling over a lot. I've heard from a lot of men over the last few weeks since my article went out. And I just want to speak to the men here really quickly. I feel that you have been conditioned incredibly hard with this idea of being a provider, with the idea of being a caretaker. And I think work for people who have been, conditioned as a man, is an incredibly sensitive topic, maybe more sensitive than, the rest of us. I just want you to know, beautiful man, that it's okay that you don't want to work. That it is not your role to be the provider. You have so much other fucking things to give. And I'm so excited for a life where you get to explore what meaning is outside of work, outside of, providing for your family, because you're a fucking artist, you're a creative, you have so much value to give us that is outside just toiling and drudgering away your precious hours of your time. You deserve more than that. And I really want you to hear that. I could just feel collective pain. And I think for so many men already, because of the way our culture has shifted and because, I think it's already changed. Men aren't the providers anymore. We aren't asking them to be, the sole breadwinners. There's a real missing something here. Men are what's my purpose? And I just need you to know that your purpose isn't toiling away. It isn't drudgery. Please ask for more than that. I want you, beautiful man, to have a fucking sparkly life. Thank you for listening, guys. Thank you for being here. You can find me on my Substack. You can find me on Instagram. But I'm just so grateful to have this conversation with you all.